Good morning, everybody in India. Hope you're all well. It's raining in London now, so let's all say that the future's bright. Yeah, with all you young, enthusiastic students who are entering into the hospitality industry, the great industry that we are. So the future's bright, and the future is IIHM. That's what you need to say to yourself. Now, last week we finished on geographical segmentation. We're going to pick up on geographical segmentation and looking at the consumer product relationship. Very, very important. And we're going to look at the slides. So basically, what does geographical segmentation mean? Well, this means that you divide the market, the people in the market, into nations. Some countries expand the world, some companies expand the world, regions, cities, districts, and neighborhoods. So we have to target our customers for the product. And on the slide, you will see Starbucks. Starbucks is international. Food and beverage products such as JD Wetherspoon and Harvester target regions of the UK. So you've got companies in India that target regions in India. TGI Fridays target cities. So you will find TGI Fridays in different cities in the UK, in different cities in the world. Whereas Starbucks and Costa are global. They're all over the world. And this is what we mean by geographical segmentation. So upmarket restaurants target a small district. So your Michelin star restaurant, it just targets a small district. A curry shop or a fish and chip shop target a neighborhood. They're local restaurants. So that's what we mean by targeting geographically. So a food and beverage product may operate in areas with different geographical needs. Satisfying these needs by making alterations to their product mix. So you satisfy needs making slight alterations to your product. For example, if we take McDonald's is all over the world. And McDonald's, for example, they will slightly tweak their product for the different countries and the different cultures. Menu items can vary between restaurants in different parts of the world. Well-known fast food restaurants operate discriminatory pricing by applying a different price to the same product in relation to a location. So you pay more at airports because it's a captive market, than on high streets, and different prices in different countries. This is the pricing strategy. The reason this is done because the needs, wants, and demands vary by geographical location. So the needs, wants, and demands vary depending on the geographical location. And the product marketing mix will be altered in an attempt to exploit or accommodate the differences. So a good marketing strategy for food and beverage is, again, matching the product to the various customers throughout the world and the different cultures throughout the world. So that's what we mean by geographical segmentation. Now, demographic segmentation, well, this is all about age, gender, male, female, and lifestyle. Very different in the type of people we want to attract. This will involve dividing the market into groups using variables such as age is a variable, gender, stage in the family life cycle, and that obviously income, different occupations, education, different religions, race, and nationality. A pub, which we're famous for in the UK, for example, or bars, may segment their market into single people, 25 to 35-year-old men with average incomes whose education finished at 16. So you may get, for example, working class play where you're just looking at a very different market who are employed manual skilled and semi-skilled professions. So there are types of pubs and bars that attract this type of person. But equally, for example, when we look at public houses or a bar, when we talk about public houses, we can talk about bars. Let's talk about bars. Another public house, however, may segment its market in a similar way by substitute married couples with 2 small children for the 25 to 35-year-old single males. So some bars and cafes with bars, for example, look at the family, the young family. The first public house, for example, where you're looking at young men, may be located in a city centre, and another may be in a resort. So it all depends on location. The needs, wants, demands of these two segments are very different, and this will have implications for the nature of the food and beverage product. So different types of products for different types of people and different types of lifestyle. That's important. Different types of products for different types of people with different types of lifestyle. Different types of experience with those products for different types of people and different types of lifestyle. Now, psychographic segmentation, this is a stage further on from demographic grouping and identifies social class, lifestyle, personality characteristics of a consumer. And social class is well known, and it exists in all aspects of society, with various individuals forming into sets whose patterns of behavior and attitude vary widely. Now, the idea of your education, which you are now studying to be hotel managers, is so that you have social mobility. You go up through the social class. And as you become educated, your desires, your wants, and your needs differ. Food and beverage consumers may be segmented as to their social class, with products designed specifically to satisfy their needs. So as you progress in your career, move socially into a higher social class, your needs, your expectations, and your demands will differ. Your tastes differ. Your wants differ, particularly as you become more educated. And that's the wonderful thing about education. Now, social groupings. Different social groupings exhibit preferences for particular food and beverage products. Some social groupings will prefer seclusion and formality when consuming a food and beverage product, while another group may prefer informal and crowded atmospheres. For example, some people go to restaurants because they're crowded and they want to be seen, and they're the place to be. Where some people go to a restaurant for peace, for informality. They don't want to be seen. And lifestyle segmentation can be seen in the development of food and beverage products, such as TGI Fridays, food and beverage products such as Wagamama, all these large restaurants, appealing to customers or consumers who see themselves as young, fashionable, informal, and adventurous. So people go there for fashion. Food and beverage products are fashionable. Personality segmentation. Personality segmentation is used to develop food and beverage products such as beers, appealing to consumers who see themselves as sharp, quick-witted, Foster's lagers, or discerning traditionalists who want real ale. So personality is also how we have to look at creating food and beverage products for different personalities. Behavioral segmentation. This divides the market into groups, depending on the way in which consumers use the product. How do you use a food and beverage product? Maybe used to meet others, yeah? Or as a place of anonymity. You don't want to be seen. The behavior exhibited relate to consumers' needs, which the product must try and satisfy, i.e. lots of open areas in the former to meet others, and booths for the latter, where you don't want to be seen. You want to go to a small part of the restaurant and not be seen. But you may go to a restaurant to be seen, to meet other people, to socialize. That's why we have in some restaurants a long table where they call it the conversation table. Behavioral segmentation also includes identifying the position of consumers in the hierarchy of usage, from having never used the product through to regular users to ex-users. For example, consumers who have never used the product before may need to be made psychologically comfortable by a genuine friendly welcome and an informative introduction to the food and beverage product. So to entice them in, to welcome them in, is a skill, a psychological skill. Some steakhouse chains ask customers if it is their first visit to the brand as standard practice, with different procedures for either of the yet to, yes or no responses. So you ask somebody, have you been here before? Yes, welcome back, delighted to see you. Have you been here before? No. Well, we're delighted that you've chosen to come to our restaurant, and we would endeavour to make it the best experience possible. And then we have first-time buyers, and you've always been a first-time buyer, which necessitates the identification of how first-time buyers behave. How do you behave? How often the product is consumed is another behavioural variable. A consumer may use a bar every day, a takeaway once a week, a pizza restaurant once a month, and go to a dinner dance twice a year. Identifying the uses enables the need to identify the need. So how often we visit a food and beverage product will identify the need we have. For example, in London, some of the clubs in London, people dine there 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So there's a different need. Whereas some people only dine in a restaurant once a week or once a month. And therefore the menu, for example, if you're dining 3 or 4 times a week, has to be appealing to that consumer, and often a much larger menu for them to choose from. Identification of needs. Identification needs, wants, demands of the segment will contribute to the product design. Consumers may perceive a dinner dance as a special occasion, and they must therefore be made very special and feel special and personalized attention from senior staff. A bar may be perceived as a place to rest and unwind after work, and may therefore be designed to be peaceful and comfortable. And that's down to the food and beverage product and the experience. Remember, food and beverage product is an experience. And it's what that individual, based on their lifestyle, based on their personality, what they actually want. Now, we need and want. Need and want are very different. You may need a car to get you to work, but you want, because of your personality, because of your status, you want a Rolls Royce, but you don't need a Rolls Royce. But because of you, your personality, you may want a Rolls Royce. A watch, you need a watch to tell you the time. But because of status and who you are, you don't want a reasonably cheap watch like this. You may want a Rolex watch or a Longines watch, because that's your personality, that's your status. Same with food and beverage, exactly the same with food and beverage. And loyalty is also a behavioral variable. And loyalty is a very important behavioral variable that applies to food and beverage products. This is the ratio between the consumption of a range of products. If a customer only eats in one restaurant, he or she is 100% loyal to that restaurant. If a customer eats in a mix of 6 restaurants, he or may only be 50% loyal to one and 10% loyal to the rest. And loyalty is something that all food and beverage outlets work on, whether it's Costa, whether it's Starbucks, whether it's Subway, whether it's the local curry house, local Chinese restaurant. And they give you often a loyalty card. So after 10 visits, you may get a free drink or whatever. They want your loyalty. And loyalty is something that all organizations try to work very hard on. The customer's needs, wants, and demands may be different at different loyalty levels. Consumer loyalty is regularly courted by food and beverage businesses, as I've said, offering discounts, special offers in return for the consumer's repeat business. Why do I go to this particular restaurant? Because after 10 visits, I get a free bottle of wine. Building up loyalty is so important. Now, we have what's called cash time model. Cash rich, time poor, or takeaway, we go to a restaurant. Cash rich, time rich, dine in, fine dining. So cash rich, time rich, fine dining. Cash poor, time poor, takeaway, fast food. Cash poor, time rich, popular catering, dining. So whether we're cash rich, time rich, cash poor, time poor, depends on the type of restaurant we go to. So you'll see that in the slide. Another approach used by large companies is the use of typologies, which may include groups of consumers who are categorized and named as targeting as follows. empty nest career ladies. Now, what we mean by that is they've got nobody at home. They've got nobody at home, and they're now pursuing a career. And Cafe Rouge was a particular restaurant group that targeted these ladies when it was first set up. Comfortable retired couples. Many restaurants target retired couples because they often have a high disposable income. Another one may stretch single mums. Single mums who don't have a lot of money may go to certain types of cafes, certain types of snack bars. And then you have the career focus, females, males, or competitive male urbanites. These are the ones that want to be seen, that want image, because image is part of their career. Yeah, so they will perhaps want to go to more upmarket restaurants to be seen. Yeah, rather like substituting a cheap watch for a Rolex watch. It's all part of the image, the status. Now, the Acorn Classification is a UK-based system that uses demographic segmentation to organize neighborhoods into consumer types and categories. Examples include wealthy, and it applies to India. It applies to all over the world, although we use it in the UK. It can be wealthy executives. Yeah, how you target wealthy executives, affluent grey people, not me as affluent, but grey hair. That's what we mean. Flourishing families in certain areas, aspiring singles. Hopefully, you are all aspiring singles. You all are aspiring young managers, prudent pensioners, old age people, and burdened singles. So there's a reference to what we call the Acorn Classification. Remember, you segment the market, you segment the food and beverage market to the types of people that you are dealing with. And that leads us on to the big issue, the very big issue of creating ideas to capture these people. Does the idea meet consumer needs? You think of an idea, and all of you, I'm sure, have got ideas, but does it capture the consumer needs? Is the group of consumers with these needs large enough to make the idea worthwhile? Is it large enough? Does the food and beverage operator or potential operator have the necessary resources available to develop the idea? Can you develop the idea? Will the idea generate customer satisfaction? Will the idea generate a benefit to operation economically, managerially, and socially? And is this idea different to the competition? So think of an idea. And I was with someone that had an idea, and they had the resources, and they knew there was enough people around, and it was based on a film and a show called Mamma Mia, ABBA. And in London, they created a whole large taverna restaurant, Greek restaurant, where they play ABBA music, Mamma Mia. Phenomenally successful. A waiting list to actually go to that restaurant. Not now because we're in lockdown. But when it opens up again, it will be successful. And that was the idea was based on a film and a show and the music of ABBA. So you've got to think of these ideas. No one else was doing it. There was no competition. So think of an idea. Think of a food and beverage idea. And we've seen over the years many different ideas. You know, cooking in front of the customer was an idea. Buffet self-service, an idea. All these are ideas. But of course, the biggest thing in the last 20 years has been the coffee houses. Costa, Starbucks. Now, in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't coffee, it was tea. But because they didn't move with the times, the tea houses closed. And now we have all these coffee, Costa, Starbucks. So it's helpful competing the concept development. It's helpful to consider the generated ideas which pass a screening process in terms of how they might be conceptualized as products or parts of products. For example, an idea to introduce a self-service buffet operation could be conceptualized as an informal continental style all-day restaurant, a family meal occasion to satisfy all appetites, an inexpensive, value for money, eat as much as you like concept. And we've had those in the past. Value for money, eat as much as you like concept. So if, for example, if the variable factors and the performance graph, if the customer values is to talk about low price, then we have to consider the price. You have to consider at the price. So there are some people, for example, who want low price. So we are price driven, completely price driven. And we have supermarkets in the UK. One is called Lidl, the other one Aldi, and they've only been around for the last 10 years, but they're totally price driven. It's not a particularly good shopping experience. There are very few people in the shop serving. They keep the costs down, but they're price driven. If people want high quality, then you have to concentrate. The performance is about quality. So when people go to our Marks and Spencer's here for food, it's about quality. If they go to Lidl, it's about price. If they want food immediately, it's about speed, fast driven. You have to concentrate on speed. Reliable delivery. You've got to have dependability. And a wide range of products and services. Some people want to go to supermarkets for a wide range of products and services. They want flexibility. So some people want to go to restaurants where there is a large menu. Some people want to go to supermarkets and shops because there's a big variety. And the ability to change the timing or quality of products. So if, for example, you want the ability to change the timing or quality, then flexibility, for example, such as dining all day. You want to be able to eat in a restaurant at any time. And then we have what's known as concept testing, how you test the concept. Once the idea has been converted into a concept, it should be tested in the market segment by asking the consumers. I keep telling you, you have to ask consumers and potential customers about the question, do you like the concept? Go around and ask people. I don't see many restaurants where the chef is out there asking the consumer, but the chef should go around and ask the consumer. How do you like the product? What are we doing right that the competition is doing better? Ask the consumer. Will you continue? I've just had a question which is very important, and this is a very important question. Let me just get the question. What if the consumers aren't happy with the variety of products that we had? That is a very, very good question. If they're not happy with the variety of products, then you are in serious trouble, because then you've got to go back and you've got to redesign the products to the consumer. If, for example, you've got a menu in a restaurant, go around and I'll say to the consumers, the people in the restaurant, do you like the menu? What would you like to see on the menu? Can you suggest anything that you would like to see on the menu? Because if you haven't got the menu right and the product right, you are in serious trouble. And what price are they prepared to pay? And don't forget, what benefits? Why do you come to this restaurant? Ask people, why do you come from this restaurant? It may, but don't forget, we don't buy products. We only buy the benefits. Why do you come to this restaurant? They may say, I come to this restaurant because I like the decor. The food is good, but the staff are so friendly. The staff are so welcoming. And I feel comfortable. And I feel secure. And I feel safe. Ask the consumer. And then you ask them, how can we do it better? How many chefs ask? How many chefs actually ask the restaurateur, the consumers of the restaurant, how can we do it better? What improvements can we make? They may say the chairs are very uncomfortable. Yeah? And therefore, if 50% of the people say the chairs are uncomfortable, then you've got to change the chairs. So there's all sorts of aspects what you need to literally ask the consumer. The maximization of profit for the owners of a food service organization may not always be perceived to be the desired objective of the managers. For example, the food and beverage managers may seek to maximize revenue, yeah, through a high market share, thereby increase their own prestige in the industry. That may not necessarily be a good thing. Now, remember last week we talked about production capability. Production capability. Look at those slides last week, because that's what that's referring to. Increase the assets of the organization, for example, by acquisition, thereby increasing their own power and personal reward. Empire build inside the organization, again, increase their own status, salary, and associated perks. Now, that's not good management, because they're not doing it for the business or promoting the business. They're not looking after, they're looking after their own desires, their own objectives. And often we find that this attitude kills the business in the long term. Yeah, increase the technical sophistication and complexity of the organization, for example, in products and processes, thereby achieving growth, increasing managerial independence, and providing fresh challenges. The existence of these types of managerial objectives can be very prevalent, especially when we do social responsibility objectives. And we're talking about social responsibility objectives. How to bring in change based on the Campuna views? A good question. Now, how do we bring in change? Now, we're going through a difficult time in lockdown. And I say to groups of people in the business, you've got to look at change. You've got to look at change. So in order to bring in the consumer, and it's the majority of consumers' views that you want, it's no good saying one or two. So out of 100 consumers, you've got 80% that say we want change. And how do you bring in that change? Well, you bring in that change by bringing the staff with you, by telling the staff. And this is what I'm doing at the moment in lockdown with companies. Bring the staff with you. We've got to change. We've got to move forward. And we've got to market. If we lose 20% of customers, then we have to target another 20% by market segmentation. Often it takes decision of reducing the new menu items to get the guests accustomed, which might not lead profit in short term, but becomes a game changer long term. How true for post-COVID world? I think that question is what everyone in hospitality in the UK is asking now. And the answer is it's the same in the hospitality post-COVID world. We have to change menus. We have to reduce costs. We have to do more social distancing. And there will not be the revenue and profit in the short term. We have to plan long term. This is not short term. This is long term. And the trouble is, too many people in hospitality want what I call they want to make a quick buck. They want to make money quickly overnight. You won't be able to do that post-COVID-19. It will be slow. It's going to take 18 months, maybe 2 years. If you do it in 6 months, you've done well. But that question is, it's the long term. And you have to plan for the game changer in the long term. So we have a social responsibility in making all of our products and environments safe. So post-19, I've been talking to restaurateurs. The restaurant experience must be safe. Must be safe. When I go into a restaurant, I don't want someone coughing over me and I get COVID-19. So I've got to create a safe environment. Also, a safe environment for staff. Never forget staff. Working conditions, working closely with our suppliers. Honesty and integrity, not accepting bribes. And equal opportunities. We're all in this together. Equal opportunities always. And we must remember ethical business practices. Another question, is changing the environment of the organisation important in order for the development of it? I think that you have to look at your current environment and you have to say to staff, are you happy with the way we're working? And how can we work together in order to develop this new post-19 environment? And sometimes it's not always necessary, but in many cases, you have to move forward and you have to say, yes, change in the environment is important. If we're going to get out and recapture the market, then we've got to change. Now, one organization I'm dealing with at the moment, in order to survive, they're going to cut commis chefs. There won't be commis chefs, only chef de parties. So they're changing the structure of the organization in order to survive. If my restaurant is doing well enough, but I feel that there is potential for it to do even better, should I take a gamble and bring a change or stick with the same? If your restaurant is doing well, you have to balance the risk of introducing more change and the gamble. Depends what type of entrepreneur you are. But in the current environment, and I say to people in London in particular, if you're doing all right, if you're making a reasonable profit, don't gamble. Don't gamble. This is not the environment in which to gamble. But that's the risk you have to take. If you're paying your bills, you're paying your staff, you're doing okay, then you're probably doing a lot better than than the competition. So I personally wouldn't take that gamble. Remember ethical business practices, fair trade, save energy, sustainable and responsible sourcing, sustainability of the business. And what that last question, for example, it sounds if your restaurant is doing well, it's sustainable. And if your business is sustainable, then why gamble it away? And you've got concern over pollution and other environmental concerns. So the last question again, I wouldn't gamble. I really wouldn't gamble. Now, what I want to start on next is that's the consumer product relationship. And I want to start next, we've done over 2 sessions of that, is kitchen design. I have for years looked at kitchen design and done a series of lectures on it because so many kitchens I go into, and you should have these slides. So many kitchens, and think about kitchens you've been into. How many are so poorly designed? And how many have not been designed by chefs or culinary people? But before you design any kitchen, it is important to understand the goals and objectives in the relation to the market strategy. So the reason why we looked at this now is because we've got this idea of a restaurant, of a food and beverage concept, because we've identified the market, we've identified the consumer, we've identified the consumer product relationship in terms of the type of consumer, the lifestyle of the consumer, the age of the consumer, the status of the consumer. Therefore, we can plan the kitchen. So all that market comes before any menu or any kitchen design. What kind of advertising strategy should be taken in harmony with health concerns in the current scenario, like COVID-free health, flooding, and it is the new way of the restaurant and hospitality industry? Well, the advertising strategy is this. Consumers want to be safe. The way I would advertise my restaurant in the future is safety. You've got to be seen to be safe. Come and eat in the new post-COVID-19 environment. And only on Sunday, I had a conversation with a hotel restaurateur who is very worried about bringing back people to his restaurant and hotel. And he said for the reception, he's going to have the visors, the clear perspex masks. The waiters are going to have clear perspex masks in the restaurant. Something quite unheard of. Would I go to a restaurant and eat where the waiter's wearing a clear perspex mask? Yes, I would. Post-COVID-19, yes, I would. I'd rather not have him or her have a mask, but if it means it's going to be safe, I will definitely go to a restaurant. So I think you're selling the safety. Our restaurant is safe. Our restaurant is quality. So what health eating habits take over delicious food? Healthy eating is delicious food. I have a saying, there is no such thing as unhealthy food. Remember this. I want you to all remember this. There is no such thing as unhealthy food. It's unhealthy diets. If I have McDonald's once a week, once a month, it's not going to affect me. If I have McDonald's every day with Coca-Cola, I'll probably be dead when before I'm 40. If I have cream once a week, it's not good. That's not unhealthy eating. A balanced diet is essential. And our menus have to have a balanced diet, a balance of protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Yeah. And all healthy eating is delicious and tasteful if it's done properly. Yeah. Remember that. Healthy eating is not a bowl of salad. Healthy eating is a balanced diet. Before a kitchen is planned, it is important to understand the goals and objectives in relation to the market strategy. Before a kitchen is planned, it is important to understand its goals and objectives in relation to market strategy. You also need to know the target numbers the establishment intends to serve. So you've got to know the numbers. Before you plan your kitchen, you've got to go your numbers. And don't forget, these days, it's all about volume. It's no good having a 50-seater restaurant in London. You've got to have a minimum of 80, 100 seats. Yeah, because you've got to be able to get the customers in and the spending longer term. Also, where kitchens go wrong is they don't necessarily have the services, the gas, electricity, and water. And a chef has to sit down with the designer. The designer must know or plan where the services are located and the maximum load that the gas or electricity can provide. This will assist in deciding how to make efficient use of the services. Otherwise, they become very expensive and may not work correctly. For example, blocked drains, insufficient water, gas pressure, and are common occurrences. And I've worked in kitchens where they haven't been planned properly, and there has been blocked drains because there's not enough drainage system to remove the water at peak times. And I've served food with 3 inches of water in the kitchen where the drains have been blocked. So you've got to be careful when you plan that you've got sufficient drainage, sufficient gas, sufficient electricity. The number of skilled level of staff the company intends to employ needs to be decided upon quickly, as it will have an impact on labour costs and equipment choices. Now, you've got to decide how many staff you want. And how many staff you want depends on the equipment. What you've got to go for in this day is more labour-saving equipment. You cannot afford to have numerous numbers of chefs in the kitchen. You've got to reduce the numbers of chefs. Look at purchasing, particularly vegetables that are pre-prepared, fresh, pre-prepared. You've got to look at labour-saving equipment. And this will affect what kind of staff you want, help less skilled staff. It will affect your cooking, consistency, and efficiency, and replace labour-intensive kitchen operations. Equipment designed for the easiest possible maintenance and cleaning will also help bring down your labour costs. It's all about bringing down labour costs. And prepared food. You know, you see a kitchen in the slide, which I hope you've got, you see lots of chefs. Oh, there are lots of chefs, but we can cut that number down by buying in pre-prepared food. And buying in prepared food means we don't have to have so many skilled chefs. And also, we've got to know about the capital expenditure. How much money? And people run out of money. I know when people design kitchens, I know how they run out of money quickly. And most design has to work with a detailed capital budget. It is not always possible to design, then consider the cost afterwards. Finance will often determine the overall design and acceptability. And the problem is when you involve chefs, they always want the Rolls Royce. Again, it says, I'm the executive chef. I want this particular stove. Not necessary. Not necessary. Often go for medium duty because equipment gets out of date very quickly and it has to be replaced. So look at it very, very carefully and shop wisely. I've got another question. Who is a better chef? One who is more productive or one who prepares better tasting food that takes more time? How long can we make the customer wait? That is a question which depends on the type of restaurant you're running and the type of customer. Some customers, for example, are prepared to wait. If I'm a customer in a Michelin star restaurant, I want a chef who presents first class, high quality, tasty food. But if I'm in a casual dining restaurant, I'm a customer, but I'm not prepared to wait. And basically, I just want a bowl of pasta. So it depends on the type of restaurant and the type of restaurant chain. But in India, they tend to save money to save more by saving money by not investing in machines because of the cheap labor cost. Is that going to change in the future? Well, I think that is very true of India. The problem is that it may well change in the future. Who knows what the next 20 years will bring? It may well change in India, because you do have a cheap labor economy. But in Europe, of course, it's the opposite. But how long that's going to go for in India, I don't know. It could well change. I think post-19 COVID will change. I think there's going to be a lot more overseas investment in India than ever before. And I say that because who's going to invest in China after COVID-19? If I'm a business person, why would I invest in China? They've caused the pandemic. Can you trust China? Is it not better to invest in India, particularly Europeans? And I think that will be the same for America. I think more and more investment, they may change the whole economy of India. I think India is going to be in a very, very good place post COVID-19, a very good place. Hello? Because space is at a premium, kitchens are generally becoming smaller. People want bigger restaurants, smaller kitchens. And equipment is being designed to cater for this trend, becoming multifunctional and streamlined. And that's another thing. You say that but labor is cheaper in India, which it is. But if you've got a restaurant in India, surely it's better to have a larger restaurant and smaller kitchen. What are the basic concepts of domestic tourism? How to increase interest in saying? Well, I think you're in a very good place. Domestic tourism in India is very strong, and that's going to pull you out of COVID-19 crisis very quickly. I think that the way to increase it more and more is social media, advertising. You have a great country. You have a country of color, style, music, weather. I think you can only expand, and longer term, you can expand your overseas tourism as well. I think India is going to be in a very, very good place post COVID-19. I think it's one of the countries that could well benefit from COVID-19 coming out of it. And I thought all you young people out there today have a very great future, because I think the investment will be in India. I'm sure of that. Yeah. So food production methods and equipment. I think this is where we can stop. We talk about food production methods, equipment. We can look at this more carefully in the design next week. Do you have any more questions? I hope this has been useful. As long as it's useful, I will continue over the next few weeks. If it's not, then I'll stop. But if you're getting great benefit from it, or at least a little benefit, then it's all worthwhile. So I hope that you have enjoyed it. Next week, we'll pick up on food production methods and equipment. So let's move forward. Let's be positive. Yeah, India's in a great place, and there's The prospects for India are fantastic post COVID-19. Very good indeed. There's going to be a lot more investment in India. And don't forget, the future belongs to you, all you young people, your careers. The future's bright. The future's IIHM. And give yourself a big pat on the back for choosing the hospitality industry. And you're very fortunate that you're in a very, very good country for hospitality growth long term and business growth long term. So take care, enjoy the week, be positive, and I'll see you all again next week. Take care. Thank you.